Shortly after the presidential election, there really was a glimmer of hope that Democrats and Republicans were going to be able to get together and avert what we call the fiscal cliff. Today, things are looking very, very different. The White House is insisting that any deal that is signed by the president must include increases on tax rates for the wealthiest Americans. Republicans are staunchly opposed.
America faces a very serious problem, and our goal is to make sure it gets solved. We have a debt problem that is out of control.
If nothing is done, taxes on all Americans will increase on January 1st. We spoke to two prominent anti-tax advocates in Washington. The most famous is Grover Norquist, who says he thinks the president will take the country over the cliff.
I think Obama's pushing us over the cliff on purpose. I don't understand the strategy, but that's clearly what he's doing.
Mr. Norquist argues that even if the country dives off the cliff and taxes increase for everyone, Mr. Obama will be blamed by the public.
When you poll people and say, do you want to raise taxes to reduce the deficit? On the exit poll the day that Obama won, 63% said no. And that's the reason they're talking about raising taxes, is to reduce the deficit. 63% don't want to do that. Second, if we raise taxes on the rich, do you think the middle class will get hit too? 75% say yes to that. More recent poll, over 60% say yes. Any attempt to tax the rich will end up being a tax on me. So it's a lot messier question than the Obama people would like to cherry pick one poll and announce that they get to win.
Critics say that Mr. Norquist and his anti-tax pledge, which have been signed by nearly all Republicans, have taken the Republican Party hostage.
For 22 years, we haven't had a Republican vote for an income tax increase in Washington, D.C. It's the longest period in American history. And it's because the pledge makes it possible for people to articulate credibly that they won't raise your taxes and to win elections doing that. It's the Republican Party's strength and power, and they're not going to give that up.
Matt Kibbe, a tax activist at FreedomWorks, which organizes Tea Party activists across the country, also thinks we are headed off the cliff. Like Mr. Norquist, he thinks Republicans should not budge on increasing tax rates.
I think it's much better for Republicans to insist on regular order and insist that we extend the current rates and have a real debate about tax reform next year, even if it means going over the cliff. If the president wants to raise taxes on everybody, maybe that's his prerogative given the election, but I don't think that the Republicans should rubber stamp that.
Democrats argue that this is what the election was all about and that Mr. Obama won.
We can probably solve this in about a week. It's not that tough. But we need that conceptual breakthrough that says we need to do a balanced plan. That's what's best for the economy. That's what the American people voted for. That's how we're going to get it done.
Indeed, a new Pew poll showed that 53% of Americans would blame Republicans if the country went over the cliff, and only 27% would blame the president. But Mr. Norquist and Mr. Kibbe say it's not so simple, and that ultimately the responsibility will lie with the president.
The idea that the Republicans are going to give up on tax rates and Obama's going to give up on his spending and trade away the thing that they most want, they don't like each other that much.
There are really three things that are at stake right now. First of all, America's fiscal future, and whether Democrats and Republicans can come together and agree on a solution for our long-term deficit issues, and also updating our outdated tax policy. Second of all, President Barack Obama's second term in office. The next few weeks are really going to determine how the president is seen here in Washington, and whether he'll have the political capital to take on some of the other issues he wants to solve. And finally, it's really a test for the Republican Party. They've just lost a presidential election, and right now, what they do, what they don't do, will determine their trajectory over the next 4 years. So stay tuned. This is Stephanie Kirchgaessner with the Financial Times in Washington.